Hey, what's going on, guys? The Horror Man back putting a positive spin on the Poltergeist remake. This 2015 remake of Poltergeist was pretty much obliterated by horror fans. I'm not sure why, but so many people hate this film. Now, of course, a lot of remakes get hate, but Poltergeist is definitely one of the most hated, it seems. Like so many others, I've heard some call this one of the worst movies ever made. That phrase really gets thrown around a lot, doesn't it? That's because it's bullshit. Poltergeist 2015 is not the worst movie ever made, and it's not one of the worst remakes either. You may not like it, it might be one of your least favorites, but it's certainly not objectively the worst. It's a well-made movie, in fact. Very competent. But the point of positive spin is not to change your mind or convince you otherwise. It's simply to tell you what I like about Poltergeist. Let's start with the runtime, which goes hand in hand with the pacing. I've always felt the original Poltergeist went on a little too long. It definitely drags in spots, and I've always felt it could have been edited a bit. That doesn't mean I don't like the original Poltergeist. I do. It's just never been a favorite. Despite the longer runtime and slower pace, there are plenty of positives about the original. But this is not a positive spin on that one. It's a positive spin on the remake. This remake has an approximate runtime of 94 minutes, which I think is more fitting. It also, for lack of a better phrase, gets to the point. While it takes a little while for Carol Ann to be taken to the other side in the original Poltergeist, Madison, the Carol Ann character in this remake, seems to be taken almost immediately. It just happens much sooner in the film, which I prefer. That's a positive. That, along with the shorter runtime, contributes to the faster pace of this remake. Better pacing, better positive. The remake opens with the family moving into their new house in the new neighborhood. I love how the title appears next to the electrical towers mowed in the grass. I thought that was a clever approach for the title screen, and that's a positive. I like the casting of the family, especially Sam Rockwell as Eric Bowen, the dad. I really like his chemistry with his wife Amy, played by Rosemary DeWitt. Their interactions come across as very realistic. They seem like a real married couple, and that's a positive. This is a real family with real problems, so it seems like what happens in the movie could happen to anyone. The oldest daughter, Kendra, seems like a real teenager because she actually was a real teenager in real life at the time. I thought it was cool that she watches videos of a certain character's show who we will meet later in the film. That was very good foreshadowing. I like that the son, in this one his name is Griffin, takes on a bigger role in this remake. I wonder if the fact that his character is named Griffin is somewhat an homage to the original movie. After all, Griffin Dunne from An American Werewolf in London was the real-life brother of Dominique Dunne, who played the older sister in the original Poltergeist. Rest in peace to her. I'm sure you all know that tragic story. Horror fans will, of course, remember the clown doll scene from the original Poltergeist, but the clown doll scene in this remake might be even scarier. That's just my opinion, but that's definitely a positive for me. I like the scene with the comic books, which I won't spoil. And I love Carrigan Burke's character in this. He's the one I mentioned earlier in the videos Kendra watches. He's the star of a popular paranormal show with a catchphrase and all. In this remake, he replaces the Tangina character, played iconically by Zelda Rubinstein in the original. It's a positive for me that they went with a different character for this, because as I said, Tangina is an iconic horror character, so it would be tough for anyone to compare to her. Carrigan being a male character makes it different enough so that there isn't too much of a comparison. And that's where I feel a lot of remakes suffer. People are constantly comparing them to the originals. I get it, but it's not necessarily necessary. Like I always ask, why can't you enjoy both? If you love the original, fine, but that doesn't somehow make the remake bad. Anyway, in addition, the Carrigan character is a phony. He fakes it on his TV show, and I like that. Because Tangina in the original was legitimate. She was the real thing. That also helps to make them very different characters, which is why it's a positive for me. I also like that they had Carrigan as the ex-husband of one of the other paranormal doctors. That was a cool touch. It just adds an extra familiar dynamic. I love the explanation of the different levels of reality, where Madison is and where the rest of the characters are. She's sort of trapped. She's close, like Carol Ann was, but they can't quite get to her. And speaking of the different realms, that's a huge positive for me. The fact that we see the other side in this remake. That's something we really don't get to see much of in the original. It's creepy too, with all of the poltergeists. It's dark and airy. I liked it a lot. There is an homage, or Easter egg, to Poltergeist 3, involving Kendra, the older daughter, which I really like, because Poltergeist 3 is my favorite in the franchise. I love the use of lights and shadows when Madison is on the other side. They can see her shadow running rampant, but they can't see her. And then, when Eric thinks he has found her in the closet, there's that great jump scare. That was definitely a creepy scene. Like the original Poltergeist, this remake has a false ending. After the first ending in the original, that's where I think that movie sort of drags a bit. But with this remake, it gets right on to the rest of it. Again, better paced, in my opinion. There are some heroic moments in the Poltergeist remake, which are positives for me. One involves Griffin, which I thought was really well done. And then there's a heroic moment involving another character during the real ending, which, again, I won't spoil. I like the concluding moments of that one, which features some technology, which, by the way, is another positive for me in this remake. The paranormal experts are modernized. They use a drone at one point, which I thought was pretty cool. It makes sense with this being a 2015 movie, although it was filmed in 2013 and not released until 2 years later. What's it matter, though? Many of you would hate it no matter when it was released. Is that what some of you do? Do you guys just go into these remakes expecting to hate them and wanting to hate them? And if so, why bother seeing them? Seems like a colossal waste of time and energy, if you ask me. But you didn't ask me, so I'll leave it at that. And before anyone uses the excuse that they hate it because it's rated PG-13, there are plenty of good, even great horror movies with a PG-13 or even PG rating. Enough with that nonsense. Seriously. The original Poltergeist was rated PG. So technically this one has a stricter rating than Tobe Hooper's film. Or should I say, Steven Spielberg's. This Poltergeist remake is once again another example of hatred I just don't understand. It's not the worst remake. It's not even a bad remake. I think it's a really good one. I personally prefer this remake to the original. Now, that's not to say that this is a better film per se. It's just more rewatchable for me, and I get more enjoyment out of watching this remake than I do with the original Poltergeist. Again, it's that damn pacing. Like Poltergeist 1982, 2015 ends with a funny moment. This is another remake that uses enough of the source material, but also does its own thing, and that's a positive. One last thing before I wrap up, there's another cool homage I forgot to mention. At the end of the film, there's a bumper sticker on the car that says Hooper High. You know, like Toby Hooper. Stuff like that is always fun to find in films, especially remakes. I put off watching this for a very long time, and I guess I shouldn't have, because I really enjoyed the Poltergeist remake. But you don't have to agree. This is just my positive spin. Be sure to check out Jason's as well. To which hated movie will we next give a positive spin? Check back soon to find out. Until then, what are your thoughts on the Poltergeist remake? Do you like it, or do you hate it? Comment below and let me know why. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit that thumbs up and be kind. Subscribe.